Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Jennie Dildine, the LDS Mission Coach, and you are listening to the LDS Mission Podcast, episode number 158, Some Quick Leadership Tips. I'm Jennie, the LDS Mission Coach, and whether you are preparing to serve a mission, currently serving, a returned missionary, or a missionary mama like me, I created this podcast just for you. Are you searching for epic confidence, ready to love yourself and to learn the how of doing hard things? Then let's go. I will help you step powerfully into your potential and never question your purpose again. It's time to embrace yourself, embrace your mission, embrace your life, and embrace what's next. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Today, I have something on my mind that I want to share with all of you, and something that I've been thinking about because I've actually had several experiences in a row that sort of have pointed out some things to me and that I've learned some stuff from. And I thought that many of them are applicable on the mission or applicable at any level of like being an employee, also on the mission. Like if you're a district leader, if you're a sister training leader, if you're a zone leader, if you're a mission leader, I think that these leadership tips will help. And I basically have observed some stuff kind of happening in, different circles I've been in with the places I volunteer, some of my church calling, other like church assignments that I've had, and also within my sphere of the business that I do, also sort of observing other people's businesses. And so I've just observed a few different like things happening, and I wanted to share some of those insights with you today because I think that it could be very useful to sort of point some of this stuff out. And because I know that it's just been useful for me to be like, oh, I kind of see that now. I kind of see that differently. So we're going to jump into some quick leadership tips. We're at the end of June, so that's wild. Pretty soon, we're going to have the 4th of July. We're going to have all of those fun festivities. I'm actually going next weekend to my grandmother's 90th birthday, so that will be very fun. I actually realized that we're going to be in Utah a lot this summer for different like mission farewells and baptisms, my nephew's baptisms and things like baptism, not plural, but his baptism. And anyway, so that should be really exciting and fun. I guess there's some other fun things that are coming up in the next little while. Towards the end of July, I'm actually going on a big trip to Europe with my family. All my kids and my daughters-in-law, we're going to go to Europe and go to a few different countries and things like that. So we're also gearing up for that. Fun fact is we are all trying to pack in carry-on suitcases because there's so many of us, and I've heard that's just the way to go in Europe. My husband and I went once and I just brought a regular suitcase. It was kind of really tough to carry it around everywhere and get it everywhere. So anyway, so if you have any tips for me about packing a carry-on, we have been watching all of the videos and all the blogs and trying to get all of the right tools to pack for a carry-on. So that's towards the end of July. And actually what's wild is we're going to be gone for 3 weeks. And then when we come back, my kids start school here 2 days later. So it's the end of June, but to me, it feels like the summer is almost over. I feel like we've already gotten through half the summer. So it's really crazy. But anyway, let's talk about leadership tips. Okay. And all of these specific leadership tips revolve around sort of one idea. And again, I'll say it again. I've kind of been involved in a few different like projects lately and things, and like places I volunteer and like observing different business things and observing my own business and things like that, my husband's business. And I actually sort of have seen a few things happen and want to share kind of this idea or this epiphany that I had. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about how most often in any sort of like project or thing you're trying to get done, so this could be on the mission, or this could be like just if you're an employer, or maybe you're a shift lead or something like that, many times that there is someone who is the visionary. So we're going to talk about the visionary and the implementer. And basically, I know that this sort of terminology is used in like some specific business coaching, and that's not what I'm trying to do here at all. Like these two words actually, and I'm probably using them wrong according to whatever that business strategy is. These two words were actually the ones that made the most sense to me, because I really do relate to the idea of a visionary, because I can see the whole picture. I see the change that we could do with missionary work and helping missionaries like do a lot better on the mission and a lot better when they come home. And then I've also been an implementer, where someone else has a vision and the implementer gets to work to make the vision happen. So based on different businesses that I've worked in, also sometimes in my family, I'm the visionary, and sometimes that I'm the implementer of just making things happen. So picture the visionary as someone who can basically see everything from sort of like a bird's eye view. They can also have sort of a vision for what the future is going to be and where a group of people or a company or a group of missionaries is headed. So maybe they're the mission president, or maybe they're the producer of a play or a movie or something like that. And they're like, oh, this could be awesome. I'm going to put my money towards this so that we can create this awesome project. Or maybe it's a head of a company like Amazon or Google or something like that. Or maybe it's more local, that it's the young women's president, or maybe the people that have been called to put together your stake trek or something like that. And so you can see like on all levels of just from your very basic like family unit to even I was just thinking, we just had a family reunion, and there was one of my sisters that was sort of quote unquote the visionary for that family reunion. And then she sort of told everyone what was going to happen and what it was going to look like and what we needed to do. And then we went to business, putting that plan in place, making it happen and implementing it. And so then we have the implementers, and those are all of the people that make stuff happen. So they're the actual missionaries. They're the actors in the play or in the movie. They're the people that work on the different floors or in the different departments of a business, right? They're the ma's and pa's on Trek, or maybe they're the cooks on Trek, where someone has a big vision of what it's all supposed to look like and what it's going to feel like and what the end result is going to be. And then we have all of this army of people who are asked to, whether paid or volunteer, to make the thing happen and to be involved with making the experience happen. And what I've also noticed over the last few weeks or months with some of these like projects that I've been on and things that I've been doing is that there's not just these two categories. If we think that there's sort of like visionaries and implementers, that within those categories, the number of like experiences, the number of ideas, the number of like personalities and backgrounds that influence a visionary is basically exponential. It's infinite, right? Same with the implementers. So they come from a variety of backgrounds and skill sets and ideas and experiences, and some experiences that have gone well and some experiences that have not gone well. And so I just think that is super valid and important to notice right off the bat when you're in a leadership position, is that there's people who are going to sort of have the vision from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from all personalities and experiences. that are going to be the visionaries, and same with the implementers. They also have experiences and backgrounds and personalities that they're also going to bring to the table. So recently, some women and I in our stake were asked to go help cook at a stake youth conference. And one of the things that was so fascinating to notice is we basically had one visionary for what the meal plan was going to be, what we were going to eat, how it was going to work. And then we had a bunch of implementers. And it was so fascinating. I think, how many did we have? Probably like 8, I think, total of us that were up there cooking for 150 young women and leaders. And it was so cool to see how everyone's strengths kind of came into play to work together. Some of them had tons of experience cooking pork. Like, we were going to do these Mexican rice bowls, and I was in a meeting, and one of the women looked at me and she was like, "How do you like to cook your pork?" And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I just put it in a crock pot. Anyway, it was just really funny. So she had really great ideas about how to cook the pork. And then it was awesome because it turned out great. Her idea with the rub, the spice rub, and then actually just baking it in an oven all day, roasting it. Anyway, there were people who were just like the down to work, like you could tell that it was just in their DNA to be like, tell me what needs to happen. And then they'd do it. And they'd move the tables and they'd move the chairs and they'd pull stuff out of the back of the car and they would like get out the broom and all of that kind of thing. And there were people who could see the whole picture. I feel like I'm kind of one of these people who, while everyone's kind of focused on their specific role, I came into the kitchen after we unloaded everything and I'm like, how would everyone feel if I put all of the food on this side of the kitchen and all of the paper products on this side of the kitchen so everything is easier to see and easier to find? And there was one really lovely woman that I worked with that was basically like a morale person, and she was so like just helpful, and she was so sweet and kind and calm the whole time. And there were people who just were like, I'm doing the dishes. I'm just going to stand here all day and do the dishes. And so it was just really fascinating and so interesting to me that basically we were all like cogs in a machine. And without the one cog, then things didn't work as well. And not to say that some of us can't like cross over sometimes, and sometimes maybe I'll be the visionary and then all of the people will kind of implement that work. Or maybe someone else will be a visionary and a lot of people will implement that work. But the way that people do all of those things is so diverse and vast that it's actually really amazing. What we need to understand is we need all of us, and I've said this a lot recently on the podcast, is we need all of our voices, we need all of our brains, we need all of our experiences. That there is no experience that you've had that's wasted, that all of it is meant for the general good and benefit of everyone. So I want to encourage you to always share your ideas. Sometimes we look at a visionary and we're an implementer in a certain situation and we feel like we can't really speak up or say our ideas or say what we see going on. But depending on your particular strengths, you might see something differently that maybe the visionary can't see. And that's one of the things I want to be able to talk about today is that, have you heard that saying where it says you can't see the forest for the trees? Well, sometimes I think what happens with visionaries, and I've been here before and I've observed it happening in different like arenas in my life over the years and in recent months. Sometimes when you're the visionary, it can start to feel like a leader or a CEO or an employer can't see the trees for the forest. And so what I mean by this is that the visionary is so kind of above the trees, seeing the whole picture, seeing all of the ants moving all over the ground, and also has a clear view of what's going to happen in the future and where everyone's trying to get to, that they tend to forget about what the individual daily grind in the trenches work actually looks like and feels like. Now, this is not a flaw because we need everybody. But what I want to talk about today is how to be a visionary, to be one of the leaders, to be one of the district leaders or the mission leader or an employer or a CEO, and talk about some ways that we really can make the implementers or the people who are carrying out the project feel successful, feel valued, feel heard, and also a way to keep up morale. Because it can be hard when you're in the kitchen, or on the grill, baking pancakes. I never had to do the pancakes, or baking or cooking burgers, 150 burgers, right? That can be a lot of work. And so if you're the visionary kind of that pictures how the whole youth conference is going to work, sometimes you kind of forget what the people, the ants on the ground, are doing, if that makes sense. And so I want to speak to a couple of things like that. So if you're the visionary, you might forget, even though maybe you've been an implementer before, and it's not a flaw. Again, you just have a hard time seeing down through the forest into what's actually maybe going on. You forget the actual step-by-step focused time it will take to do something, or even to change course. And you may not even understand, unless you're really intentional, the toll it can take on the morale of the people that are implementing your vision. And I think this is just really important to remember. So this is one example I had from my life. Is the way I sort of thought about it is a few years ago. So we used to have a 2-story living room, front living room area. And as my husband and I talked about it, we were like, oh, it would be so cool if you could walk out upstairs onto that, a landing of some kind, so that you could actually see out the window. We have a beautiful view out our front windows. And I also actually don't love 2-story ceilings. I know it's just a personal preference, but I prefer something a little shorter so it feels more cozy. That's just me. Anyway, so we just started talking about oh, it shouldn't be too hard. It's basically like putting plywood, right? Just on the floor. But anybody who's in construction and anybody who, is involved with that at all knows that it's just not that simple, right? In this particular instance, I was the visionary, and I'm like, oh, I can see it all now, and we'll have these barn doors at the bottom that will open to the thing, and then we'll have this work out, and we'll have all of this beautiful woodwork on the ceiling, and then we'll just be able to walk out. And right, I had a vision, an overall picture of what I wanted the thing to look like at the end. But then there's the tradesmen and the craftsmen and the painters and the drywallers and the structural people who had to weigh in on this whole project. Now, imagine if if everyone was the cogs were turning to make this vision happen, this vision that we had for this covered living room. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, just kidding. I think we only want to come out halfway, right? Just in the middle of it, which we can do. I think we can change course when we're a visionary. But what I want to offer today is that we can do so much more as in a leadership or visionary position that can make the lives of the implementers so much easier. And not only that, but more fulfilling and less stressful. Okay, so let me give you another example. Let's say that you are the producer of a play, and you come and make sure you hire your director, you hire the actors, and everybody's good to go, and they've been working on the scenes, and they've been blocking the scenes, and the costumes are all ready, and you're about to open on Broadway or something like that. And then all of a sudden the producer watches like the second to last run through or something like that before the show opens. And then the producer says something like this, right? The producer's the visionary. The producer's the one that's had the vision from the beginning of what this could what it could look like, what it could feel like, what the experience for the audience could be like. But then what if this producer walks in and says, "Oh, I don't like this ending anymore. It needs to end something like this. And we all need to feel this when this happens." So in the visionary's mind, right? No big deal. How hard can it be? Like, just change a few things. But the people that are the implementers, the actual actor and the director and all of that, now they're working harder, longer hours, and stress goes up. And ultimately, what I think happens is that we ultimately impact the overall positive vision in the end anyway. And so it's just interesting to consider whatever project you're involved in, if it's missionary work or baptisms, or if you're a shift lead, or if you, like I was talking to my daughter-in-law and her sister is been working at Starbucks and she's a shift lead. And I think, well, she's probably something more than that because she was in charge of like getting everyone that was working there, getting faster times for service out the window, you know, and making sure that everyone had their drinks faster. And so, like, we sometimes forget as the visionary what it requires of every single individual, both time, energy, emotional capacity, and there's so much more, right? So sometimes the vision in the end is actually impacted rather than maybe if we just decided to leave the play ending the way it was, maybe it could have just had as much impact. And I'm not saying that we can't change course. I think I'm going to give you some tips on how we can still do this, but have everyone on board and feel the same sense of fulfillment and hopefully let go of as much of that stress and impact that it can have on the implementers. So let's say as the owner of a pest control company that you're like looking at the numbers and you're thinking, oh, if we could just do X amount of clients, sign X amount of clients a month, it would be so much better. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to have everyone leave at 6:30 and stay out till 7:30 or something like that. I'm just making this stuff up. So then we just sign basically a new edict as the visionary, like, oh, it would be so much better, right? So we just send it down the channels, like this is what's happening. And we start to say things like, this is how it is moving forward from now on. And again, it can work. It can work to do it that way, but it might lead to, just like in the play example, people working harder, longer hours, and often the stress goes up just to make that implementation. And maybe even you have people that feel like that goal within your pest control company feels unreachable, right? And then they're not even buying in anymore. And ultimately, like I said, this vision that we thought we had, that we just are like handing down to people, ultimately the end result is impacted. And the vision doesn't always end up the way that we think it's going to. So if you are a visionary, and again, all of us take turns, I think, being the visionary or being an implementer, being the implementer or being the visionary. And again, we can apply this to the mission. We can apply this to our employment. We can apply this to our family dynamic. We can apply this to reunions. We can apply this to anything. So if you are a visionary in a certain project that you're trying to accomplish, the question becomes, how do you help your people, the implementers, create the most success and fulfillment possible? And I've come up with a few things. I came up with 10. And listen, I'm going to go through them quick. And I'm sure there are more. Like, I'm not a business expert. Again, these are just my observations over the last 3 to 6 months over the last few weeks of things I've noticed in my life, in other people's lives, and things that have just been happening with my daughter-in-law, at her work and things like that. So anyway, I just want to say, I'm not using any specific examples of anything. I just wanted to sort of I love bringing all of the information together and kind of assimilating it into something that we can all implement and use and hopefully help in our leadership positions, in our visionary positions. Okay, number 1, notice people's strengths and what they're good at. So one of the things that I was good at when I was up at cooking at our youth conference was I was really good at organizing the flow of the people to get their food. So, and exactly what needed to go in what order, should the buns go first and then the ketchup and then the hamburger and then the lettuce and then the tomato or whatever. And for the Mexican rice bowls, what do we need first? We need the rice and then we need the meat. And I organized all the containers. I organized all of the serving utensils, I knew that I thought we should have a napkin at the end because I knew that it's hard to juggle a napkin and fork when you're trying to serve yourself all the food. So that's something that I was really good at. And by just the second meal, someone would kind of pop in, one of the other leaders, and say, "Oh, well, do you think we should do it like this?" And someone else would be like, "Oh no, Jennie, she's really good at that. She's the one that's going to organize the order." And we got 150 kids down 2 sides of 2 tables super fast and super efficiently. And so it was just kind of fun. And it made me feel fulfilled and successful. And I know that if I was the one washing dishes, that by the end I would have been grumpy and my back would have hurt, and I think all of us by the end our feet hurt. But when we notice people's strengths and what they're good at, then we can, number 2, give people assignments that play to their strengths and help them feel successful. I actually just feel so happy and light when I think about it this way, is maybe we can give people more opportunities to do the things that they're just already good at. And I know that we sometimes think of callings as we've got to stretch this person or grow this person or something like that. And I think some of that happens. And I think some of that is important. But I also think sometimes just let someone do what they're good at. And maybe we just need to not notice, but to ask what they're good at. Do you know, the people that are in your, let's say, your district, do you know what they're majoring in? Do you know what they did in high school? Do you know what their strengths are? Anyway, super fun to think about this. Number 3, if you are a visionary, practice living in the implementer's shoes for a day. Really take time to process what a change would actually look like. So if you're the producer of a play, actually walk yourself through, okay, what does that mean? Because if you're a producer, maybe you'd been a director before. And if you're a director, maybe you were an actor before. What does it actually quantify to in hours, in time, in resources? I guess hours and time are the same thing. In resources, in abilities, in stress level. And really quantify that. And really understand that. And not just for the actors, but for the directors and the costume people and the lighting people. What does that actually require? And then also, do you guys remember that show? I can't remember what it was called, but basically, maybe that's what it was called. It was called Undercover Boss, I think. And the boss actually lived in, disguised themselves and actually did sort of the implementer's job for a while, and how much their perspective changed on what kind of a vision they wanted to have for their company and what they were willing to or not willing to ask the implementers to do. And I think it's so important. And like, I kind of want to say, and I don't know if this is right, this is not like gospel or anything, or like the only way to think about this, but in my mind, if you're a visionary and you go and you start to think to yourself, would I want to make this change? Would I want to implement it in this way? Then maybe not. Would you be willing to take the time to be in the trenches and make that change and to do the extra work and have the extra stress? Then maybe don't. It's just maybe. I don't know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I'm not saying anything for sure, but just something to think about. Okay, when you want to make a change, get feedback from the numerous implementers so you can really get a feel for what it will require. Maybe you're so high above the trees that you don't even understand what it'll require. And this is such a beautiful step to go through because people want to feel heard. People want to feel understood. They want the leadership that's over them to really hear them out and know what their experience is like. Number 5, carefully weigh what it'll cost individuals to pull something off and figure out if the request is worth it. And this is, again, if you want to make a change. So consider, will the overall morale be affected in a way that impacts the end result anyway? I don't know. It's just worthwhile to consider that maybe asking so much of or even more of someone might add more stress and actually cause morale to go down. Let's say if we go back to the pest control example, maybe it actually makes it harder for you to reach your goal, even though you think this is the way to make it happen. Okay. Number 6, give people the option to say that something isn't going to work. I feel like sometimes when we are a visionary and we feel like it's quote unquote the right way to do something and it's going to be so amazing, like offer it to people as an option. Like, we could do it this way. What do you think? Yes or no? And let them say no. Like, we don't want it to be like, do this or else, or have this sort of P.S. If you don't do what I'm asking, then you're not a team player, or you're a troublemaker, or you're lazy, or something like that. Or a term like this, like you're either with us or against us. Or this idea, like just buck up and do what you're asked. People are allowed to have opinions, especially implementers, because they're the ones doing the work, and the implementers and implementing the stuff. And it can go so far for you to just hear them out and allow some of them to say no, or to just say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. If this way doesn't work for you, then maybe we can figure out a different way, or maybe it can work for some of you, whatever you guys think. Okay, number 7, if you decide to take action and make a change, go ahead and share your insights and your vision to the whole group. So sometimes you'll see something shift, either in leadership or on a project that you're working on at school or something. And you're like, wait, what? This is silly, right? Like, why are we even doing it this way? But as the visionary, as the leader, if you can convey that, be like, here's exactly what I was thinking. Here's exactly what I think it'll do. Here's exactly the reasons I think it's going to be awesome for you and actually make your life easier. Here are exactly the results that I think we can get if we make this small change. The implementers will have more buy-in. They'll have more excitement. They'll have more morale to implement the change, because change always takes work, no matter what. Number 8, if your implementers decide they're willing to change, allow people time and space to implement what you've asked them to do, and truly help them implement it. So let's say the producer comes in and is like, hey, guess what? I want all of this to change. You best believe that you should be there late every night that week, helping make the change, right? Helping the director, helping the actors. Be willing to jump in and help and implement it, okay? And give people time to change. Number 9, stop pointing out all the ways they aren't meeting the new expectation, right? We can see some of this like, we're still not meeting our goals. We still haven't met that thing that we're trying to do. And instead, acknowledge how challenging the change probably has been for people and start offering gratitude. Thank you so much. Like, it sounds like this. Thank you so much. I know that was like a quick change we made there. And I know that this is different than what we're doing, that we usually do. And so I just am so grateful that you're willing to pitch in. And it means a lot to me. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing to implement this vision that I have. It sometimes feels like, as a visionary, if you're the one in charge, if we don't talk about the elephant in the room, like that this is really a hard thing for everyone to do, to shift gears, then no one will see the elephant. But I don't think that's true. I think we all know like this is hard. So I say just acknowledge it and then offer so much positivity and love and gratitude along the way throughout the change. So number 10 is actually a tip for the implementer. If you are the implementer, if you're the one doing the work of the visionary and trying to make a vision of a CEO or a play producer or whatever, a trek head of trek people that are putting together the trek or whatever it is, right? If you're an implementer, stay grateful and positive too, as much as you can. Because I've also seen where kind of the implementers get a little like infighty and they get a little grumpy and think bad things about the visionary, like, and they don't understand and things like that. And we just need to know that each of us have different roles at different times. And so sometimes what I like to do is just be like, oh, I must not understand. I must not understand the vision. And that's okay. And, maybe that's because the visionary is above the trees and you're kind of in the forest. So you can't see the whole picture or you can't see the end thing. And that's okay too. So I think just creating space for both of us to have the experience that we're having. Sometimes I'm the implementer, sometimes I'm a visionary, and I've spent time doing both. But I think it can go such a long way to just have gratitude for the person that's in charge, gratitude for the implementers, and really let everyone have a voice and feel heard and valued and really respected and just have them understand that we have so much gratitude for both. So like I said, I'm sure there are so many more leadership. There's books and books and books and podcasts and podcasts and podcasts on leadership. But these are the things that I want to try to remember to do if I'm ever in a presidency or over a group of people, or even just trying to implement within my family, right? For this, maybe even for this Europe trip that we're going on as a family in a few weeks. I want to remember these sort of leadership tips to, make sure as the visionary, I'm seeing the whole picture. And when I'm seeing the whole picture, that I also zoom in and really understand the implementer experience before I make a change or make a shift. Okay? You guys, all of us are needed. All of us are important. We need everybody's voice. We need everybody's experience. So just keep going. Let's work together. It's going to be so awesome. Okay, everyone have the most amazing week, and we'll talk to you next time. Serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can present a unique set of challenges. And many of those challenges you might not even see coming. So you're going to want a unique set of solutions. It's easier than you think to overcome worry and anxiety, serve the successful mission you've always dreamed of, and navigate your post-mission experience with confidence. That is why I created some amazing free goodies that I'm sharing in my show notes. Maybe you'll want to grab the free training for preparing missionaries, my video course for RMs, or maybe you and I should hop on a free strategy call. If you're ready to take your preparedness to serve or your preparedness to come home to the next level, then go grab one of those freebies. And in the meantime, no matter which part of the mission experience you are involved in, just know that Jennie, the LDS Mission Coach, is thinking about you every single day.